Does the screenwriter really have to live in Los Angeles?
It depends. If the screenwriter wants to write for television, the answer, as much as people hate to hear it, is yes. Television is an all hands on deck kind of business, so you really do have to be here. For a writer to get staffed, for a writer to sell a pilot, there's going to be an obscene amount of meetings that precede that. There's an obscene amount of networking. So a writer really does need to be here for television unless they are brought in by their agent, their manager, just to sell a pilot, and they're able to come in for weeks at a time for meetings. That said, if you want to staff on television, you have to be here. People are not going to take a chance that you'll make the move once you get the job, and they're going to give more consideration to writers who are available to walk into the room in 2 days. I can tell you most of my writers who've gotten staffed for the first time on a show usually got the word 5 or 6 days before. It's not one of those things that you know weeks and weeks and months in advance. You hope, you have suspicions, you're told by the showrunner, but you don't have your paperwork in hand until a few days before the room opens. And so you have to be available to not only be in the room when the room opens, but also network executives want to meet with you. It wasn't expected, but here they are. It's now 10 o'clock on a Wednesday morning and they want you in at 3. And if you can't make it, you don't have the job. So you have to be available for all of those things. I find that showrunners and executive producers are less willing to take a chance on writers that they don't know to be available in that fashion. Now, for film writers, I find the situation is very different. As a film writer, you can be anywhere in the country. The world is a little bit more difficult because we do want you to be available for meetings, be available quickly. So I do find that a lot of people are a bit more forgiving as far as geography is concerned for feature writers. The most important thing about living in Los Angeles is that it's a sign of your commitment to this career. I work with a great feature writer who lives in Colorado who met a manager who wanted to sign him, and the manager knew that we had worked together, and so he called me and he said, "How do I know this guy's really serious? He's in Colorado." And so I had to step in and say, no, I promise, I swear, I've read more than one piece. This writer, this is the career, this is what he's doing, it's not a hobby. So the move to Los Angeles is not so much for availability on the film side, even though that is important, so I don't want to discount that. You have opportunities to network and meet, and not only meet executives, but meet your class of writers, but it is an important sign of commitment to this is the thing that I want. It is not a hobby. It is not a thing that might or might not turn out to be. It's something that I'm banking on. A lot of people talk about coming to Los Angeles because this is where movies and television are made. And if this is what you want to be a part of, if you can, you should get here. Now, as a mother of 2 and a wife, I certainly understand that if my life was elsewhere and I wanted to be a writer, maybe moving is not that available to me. If that is indeed the scenario, then the writing has to be that much stronger so that it does get noticed through the surer channels of the big contests. So if you're a feature writer, you want to get to semi-finalist in the Nickel Fellowship, not necessarily just the quarterfinalist. You want to really have your work surface in a way that it becomes undeniable. And undeniable is a word that you're going to hear me say a lot because it's a big key term for the industry. Work that is undeniable, writers who are undeniable, that's who the industry wants to work with.
So let's take a hypothetical and tell me if this might work. Suppose I'm a writer, I live in the Midwest, and I have a relative or a friend that has an LA address. And so I'm telling these network executives, oh, I'm in LA, and I'm trying to make it work and squeak by. Can that really happen? Suppose I say, yeah, I live in LA, I can, what time do you need me there? I take a flight. How realistic is it I'm going to be able to keep that up until I'm hired?
It's possible, not probable. I've gotten calls for my writers by somebody saying, hey, you work with such and such, right? It's Friday, it's 11 o'clock, I want this person in my office at 2. I want to sign them before the weekend's over, get them over here. And if you say, they can't do it, that becomes a problem.
Wow.
And also there's an issue of honesty, right? You want to be as honest as possible. Now, I have a good friend who's in Seattle who is a television and feature writer who comes down on a regular basis and takes meetings. I have writers in New York. New York I do find to be an advantageous location because the industry travels to it a lot, so there are opportunity to meet with potentially your agent or your manager when they're visiting New York. You want to be as honest as you can about it while being entirely available. So the thing is to say, I'm in Seattle. If you let me know by 8 o'clock in the morning, I can be there too.
Okay, right. So yeah, aside from the honesty part, still being able to travel and making it work and being able to move here if you get the job, it probably sounds like it wouldn't work.
Well, the thing is that writers who are remote to Los Angeles should expect regular trips to Los Angeles at their own expense. Initially, before the writer is repped, it's going to be to come out here to potentially attend conferences or classes or events, start to get to know their writing class. Then when they are repped, come to meet their reps. And then start going out on general meetings that their rep sets up for them. So, you know, when I have writers coming in from the East Coast, sometimes I don't even get to see them because they're literally booked from Monday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning all the way through to Friday at 5 p.m., sometimes into the weekend with back-to-back meetings. And that's something that any writer who's not in Los Angeles should expect to take on should their material hit. And that's really what we want, right? Because the way that a writer breaks today is not quite as linear as write a script, sell the script, get the money. It's write the script, use the script to introduce you to Los Angeles, introduce you to the industry in the context of general meetings. So that's where the writer will get to go out on a lot of generals, meet with a lot of people, and for that you certainly want to be able to do that consistently, sometimes do it every few months. You know, when things get really, really hot, then potentially do it every month. Those are the things that a writer needs to be able to deliver on, and agents and managers tend to look for those red flags that signal whether or not the writer is going to be available to be in Los Angeles as much as it's going to be required in order for them to get a career off the ground.
Okay, another hypothetical, and that is someone has a family trip and they're going to come to LA and they want to get a feel of the landscape. They plan to be pitching scripts. They may even come and move out here. What would you say is a good self-tour for them?
Well, I always tell writers who come into town from another location, on occasion I'll have a writer from Australia saying, I want to come to LA with a family or without, but come to Los Angeles, how do I do it best? The way that I usually advise writers to do it is to plan their trip around an event so that they have a natural destination in which they can go. They can meet other writers, they can potentially meet industry people. So whether you are coming for one of the big pitch events that take place in the summer, or you're coming for a conference like the Produced By conference that puts you face to face with the industry, you want to plan a visit around that and then look for other networking events that are happening around that. Get to know the landscape that way, but have those anchoring events that really inform your visit as opposed to show up and go, I'm here, anybody. So I like to have visits anchored by events, as many as possible. And then, you know, usually the good thing about Los Angeles is that we do have networking events that are happening all the time. So in any given week, you can find ISA, Thursday night social, you can go to, that happens once a month. We have Scriptwriters Network that has Friday night drinks. We have Blacklist that puts on events. So Final Draft does. All of these organizations put on networking and socializing events for writers, as well as what happens regularly at the WGA Foundation that puts on great panels, and the list goes on and on. So you really want to anchor your trip with an event and then find networking events around those so that you can start to get to know not only executives that you want to work with, agents and managers you'd like to have rep you, but other writers who are themselves breaking in, who may have amassed a little bit more information than you have so far, and really help you learn the lay of the land.